The Senate will come to order. The senators will please take their seats. Those persons not entitled to the privileges of the floor will kindly retire to the gallery. The senators and all in attendance will stand and be led in prayer by the Reverend Michael Honecker, River of Life Pentecostal Church, Dublin. Welcome, Reverend Honecker. Thank you for being here.
Good afternoon. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we are both honored and humbled to gather in these Senate chambers today, knowing that each of us are appointed to your kingdom for such a time as this. As we look upon the world in which we find ourselves living, we hear the words of the great patriot Thomas Paine ringing ever true in our ears. These are the times that try men's souls. The summer soldier and the sunshine patriot will, in this crisis, shrink from the service of their country. But he that stands by it now deserves the love and thanks of man and woman. Tyranny, like hell, is not easily conquered. Yet we have this consolation with us, that the harder the conflict, the more glorious the triumph. What we obtain too cheap, we esteem too lightly. It is dearness only that gives everything its value. Heaven knows how to put a proper price upon its goods, and it would be strange indeed if so celestial an article as freedom should not be highly rated. With this great calling we have accepted, with the tremendous responsibility with which we are entrusted, and with the appropriate accountability to which we are held, may we put aside partisan division. May we overcome yesterday's offenses. May we rise up and prevail over personal ambition. May we put aside political strategy. And may we come together in unity and harmony for the citizens of Virginia. And may we find answers to hard questions and generate solutions to seemingly impossible problems. In the course of the passionate deliberations that take place among our chosen and entrusted leaders who serve and work and sacrifice in these chambers, may they work to discover the shared good that will benefit all Virginians. May each of these dedicated men and women remain steadfastly committed to the professional bearing, the civil politeness, and the intelligent insight which is commensurate with the highly respected positions our senators hold. It is in these stations of trust and honor and respect that we, the citizens of the Commonwealth of Virginia, have placed our faith and our hope in the persons who occupy the Senate of Virginia, understanding that these men and these women will represent not only their respective constituents, but will also strive to find the necessary leadership and stewardship that will serve as a facilitator for safer communities, improved standards of living, and abounding opportunities for all of the citizens of this Commonwealth. As these men and women carry out their sacred duties and their solemn obligations, I pray that you will instill courage and impart intellect as you, the God who created, the God who sustains, and the God who protects, will lead, guide, and direct the path and the decisions of this body. And may this be done for both your glory and our advancement. Give to us who are gathered in this place, as well as to all people elsewhere, an unmistakable sense of your presence, that with it we may learn to understand each other, to respect each other, to work with each other, to live with each other, and to both be good and to do good by and for each other. Because in this, so shall we make our Commonwealth and our nation great in its goodness and good in its greatness. May all that have done this today, may all that is done today and in the days to come by our legislators and our leaders be for your greater honor and for your glory. And all of this we pray in the name that is above every name, the name of your Son and our Savior, Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Clerk will call the roll. All those present will please vote aye. The clerk will close the roll.
You have a quorum, Mr. President. Senate Journal for Friday, January 20th, 2017.
The senator from Russell County, Senator Chafin, moves that the reading of the journal be waived. All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 37, noes 3.
Ayes 37, noes 3. The reading of the journal is waived. The clerk will please report any communications from the House. The senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I respectfully move we waive the reading of any communications received from the House of Delegates.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the reading of the communication be waived? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, noes 2.
Ayes 38, noes 2. The reading of the journal is waived. The clerk will please report any communications from the governor.
We do not have any, sir.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The time has come to recognize visitors to the gallery and take up other matters for the morning hour. The senator from Eastern Fairfax County, Senator Surville.
Mr. President, I rise for an introduction.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, joining us in the gallery today, we have Connor Slocum. Connor is here visiting me in my office today. He's a student at Mary Washington University, lives in Northern Virginia. He's a business major. He's looking to focus on policies helping small business in the community. He's also a member of the University of Mary Washington Chess Club, an intramural soccer player. But he's down here observing us to see how we make policy in Virginia and see how he can make his community a better place. I'd ask that you give him the welcome of the Senate.
Thank you, Senator Connor. Connor, thank you for being with us this afternoon, and thank you for coming to visit the good senator. You're at a great university there in Fredericksburg, so continue your work, and best of wish to you in your endeavors. I'd ask the members of the Senate to please join me in offering Connor Slocum the warm welcome of the Senate. The senator from Fauquier County, Senator Vogel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for purposes of 2 introductions.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you. I would like to direct your attention in the gallery to some of the smartest people in the gallery. The Mountain Vista Governor's School in Warrenton, Virginia is here, and they serve the school districts of Winchester City, Clark County, Culpeper County, Fauquier County, Frederick County, Rappahannock, and Warren counties. And they provide students, as you know, with a challenging and engaging curriculum that integrates learning in the fields of science, mathematics, and the humanities, giving them the necessary tools to succeed in positions of leadership. I had a great opportunity to meet with many of them this morning. And joining us in the gallery is the director, Dr. Roseanne Williamson, and 7 of her students, Allie Riley, Molly Childers, James McAvoy, Blair Huska, Andrew Frederick, Jake Goudot, and Alejandro Galvez. And Mr. President, I would request that you please extend to them the very warm welcome of the Senate.
Well, thank you, Senator. Would members from Mountain Vista Governor's School for Science, Math, and Technology please rise? What a great group you have, and thanks for visiting Mr. Jefferson's Capitol this afternoon. And I know I'm preaching to the choir, as we say, but the jobs of the 21st century are in STEAM-related areas, so we appreciate what you do and appreciate you promoting those directions. So I'd ask the members of the Senate to please join me in offering members from Mountain Vista Governor's School for Science, Math, and Technology the warm welcome of the Senate. Senator from Fauquier, Senator Vogel.
Thank you, Mr. President. Also in the gallery today are some of our most engaged and supportive people. They are here from One Virginia 2021. I know many of you are familiar with their work and hear from them frequently. They are Virginians for Fair Redistricting, and they are Larry Heath, Eddie Say, Elise Fullstone, Jeanette Heath, Tora Arsala, Nancy Finch, Patty Hurst, and Susan Kosier, and her 2 daughters. They are a group, as you know, of very dedicated Virginians from across the political spectrum who believe congressional and state legislative districts belong to the citizens of the Commonwealth and not to any legislator or special interest or political party. And they advocate for a fair process and not a particular political outcome. And we appreciate their very, very hard work and their time here in the legislature. And Mr. President, I would request that you please extend to them the very warm welcome of the Senate.
Thank you, Senator. Would members from One Virginia 2021 please rise? Thank you all so much. And just as the great senator from Fauquier County said, this is so important to democracy in Virginia, what you all are advocating for. And believe it or not, 2021 will be here very shortly. So thanks for being here in the Capitol today. And again, thanks for giving your message and letting people understand how important this is for our democracy. I'd ask the members of the Senate to please join me in offering members from 1 Virginia 2021 the warm welcome of the Senate. The senator from Bedford, Senator Newman.
Mr. President, I stand for the purpose of an introduction.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, on behalf of the senator from Lynchburg, and I would like to draw your attention to students in the gallery from 2 colleges in our area. One is from Liberty University and the other is from Lynchburg College, along with Kenneth Craig, who is here with the students, and I hope that you would give them the warm welcome of the Senate.
I will. Thank you, Senator. Would members from Liberty University and Lynchburg College, if you're with us in the gallery, please rise. Absolutely. You all have a great group. And wow, a lot of great things are happening in Lynchburg, and things are growing every time I go back. The schools are getting larger. So some great educational opportunities at both Lynchburg College and Liberty University. So thanks for being with us here today to visit Mr. Jefferson's Capitol. I'd ask the members of the Senate to please join me in offering members from Liberty University and Lynchburg College the warm welcome of the Senate. The senator from Accomack County, Senator Lewis.
Mr. President, rise for the purpose of an introduction.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, members of the Senate, visiting with us in the gallery today is Councilwoman Andrea McClellan from Norfolk. Councilwoman McClellan is doing an excellent job for the city in her first year on the council, and she's here today in her capacity as a Hampton Roads board member for 1 Virginia 2021 and the fantastic work that organization is doing, as the President just spoke to. So I'd ask that the Senate extend a warm welcome to Councilwoman McClellan.
Thank you, Senator. Would Councilwoman Andrea McClellan please rise? Welcome, Andrea. It's great to see a friendly face from Norfolk. And I would just remind the Senate, Madam Shar, Madam Clerk, that not only she's had 1 but 2 children in our PAGE program here. So we're always recruiting and looking for others. And Madam Clerk, she has a 3rd son that will hopefully be with us in the next year or so. So Andrea, thanks for being here today. Thanks for all your great work in the city of Norfolk, and always good seeing you. And I'd ask the members of the Senate to please join me in offering Councilwoman Andrea McClellan the warm welcome of the Senate. The senator from Portsmouth, Senator Lucas.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for the purposes of an introduction.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, members of the body, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated was founded on January 13, 1913 by 22 collegiate women with a focus on sisterhood, leadership, and service. And for over 106 years, the members of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated have used their collective strength to advocate for the most challenging issues of our time, nationally and internationally, and has proven to be a powerful force. Against the backdrop of the Women's March that we witnessed this weekend, this year's Delta Days event holds special significance. This march was a powerful example of resilience that united more than 1 million women in the United States and around the world against the political climate that exposes this divisive sentiments against women, minorities, and immigrants. Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated has been pursuing this mission since our founding in 1913. I'm proud to be a part of a collective of strong women who are working to advocate for women's rights, human rights, and the empowerment of our most vulnerable population. Mr. President, I hope it would be the pleasure of the body to join us in giving them a warm Senate welcome. But before I do, to round out this introduction, I yield to Senator Locke.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Hampton, Senator Locke.
Thank you, Mr. President. Among the members of Delta Sigma Theta sorority is Lisa Lucas Burke, who is a past president of the Portsmouth Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta. She was recently sworn in as a member of the City Council of Portsmouth, and most importantly, she's the daughter of the senator from Portsmouth. So if you would also give her the warm welcome of the Senate.
I will, Senator. Thank you. Would Lisa Lucas Burke and members of the Delta Sigma Theta sorority please rise? Thank you all so much for being with us this afternoon. And not only are you lovely in your red, but I had the opportunity to meet with you this morning. You are all wonderful, beautiful people. So we thank you for being here, and thank you for traveling around and talking to your delegates and senators and advocating for what's important to you. And we welcome you, and I'd like to remind folks, to the upper chamber of this General Assembly. So thanks for being with us this afternoon. I would ask the members of the Senate to please join me in offering members from Delta Sigma Theta sorority the warm welcome of the Senate. The senator from Franklin County, Senator Stanley.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. I rise for the purposes of an introduction.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to remind the members of this body and those in the gallery that today is Virginia Electric Cooperative's Legislative Day in Richmond. More than 200 co-op members, staff, and directors from across Virginia are here with us today. From Fairfax to Halifax, from Lee County to the Eastern Shore, electric co-ops provide affordable, reliable electricity to more than 1.2 million Virginians, Mr. President. Our electric cooperatives here in the Commonwealth of Virginia are the leaders in my part of the area and especially in all of rural Virginia, always working towards innovative solutions to their members' needs here in the 21st century. Today, Mr. President, Virginia's electric co-ops are leading the Commonwealth in deploying broadband to the rural communities they serve and bringing renewable energy to their members by offering the first true community solar program here in Virginia. Our electric cooperatives are true community advocates, and I ask that you recognize them today, Mr. President. They may be in this chamber, watching in another room in the Senate rooms that we have, or across the hall, but whether they're here or not, Mr. President, I ask that you extend to them the warm welcome of the Senate.
Thank you, Senator. Would members from the Virginia Electrical Co-op program in Virginia please rise if you're with us? Senator, I believe they may be watching from another room, but just as you said, they are very important to the Commonwealth, and especially with energy. And as we know, anybody that we talk to that wants to come to Virginia, the cost of energy is very important to them. So we appreciate what the electric co-ops are doing, especially in rural Virginia. I'd ask the members of the Senate to please join me in offering members from the Virginia Electric Co-op across the Commonwealth the warm welcome of the Senate. The senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Mr. President, I call your attention in the gallery to a group of educators from Roanoke County who are here. I don't see them, but they're supposed to be here. They're here in the Capitol promoting our schools, advocating for our schools and our children. So I ask you to recognize the Roanoke County educators who are here in the gallery.
Thank you, Senator. Would members from the Roanoke County Association please rise? Welcome, and thank you all for being here today, and thanks for all that you do for the city of Roanoke and the county of Roanoke. So appreciate you being here and wish you safe travels later in the day. I'd ask the members of the Senate to please join me in offering members from the Roanoke County Association the warm welcome of the Senate. The senator from Hanover, Senator Reeves.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for expanding my district as well. I'd like to stay in Spotsylvania if I could.
All right.
I think the senator from Hanover might.
I know you're trying to move statewide.
I got it. Yes, Mr. President. Mr. President, it's my honor and privilege to introduce our pastor, our reverend, who gave the Fire in the Belly sermon this morning. It's the Reverend Michael Honecker from the River Alive Pentecostal Church in Dublin. He is accompanied by Mr. Steve Lowe And as the fine Reverend put on his full armor of God, I tell you, he puts on body armor every day because he's not only a Reverend, he's one of our first sergeants with the state police and also a highly decorated Marine. And I can't thank him enough for coming all the way here today. I know several of the members from Southwest know the dear Reverend quite well, and I just want to give him the warm welcome of the Senate.
Thank you, Senator. Would the Reverend Michael Honaker and also your guest Steve Lowe please rise? It's great seeing you, and as we had a nice discussion down here, thanks for getting us off to a good start this morning. Also, thank you for your service to our country in the Marines, and also your service as a state trooper. And when we're trying to leave, you're the ones that are going in there to keep our streets and our communities safe. So we truly appreciate that. I'd ask the members of the Senate to please join me in offering the Reverend Michael Honaker, also a sergeant in our State Trooper Association in Virginia, and also his guest Steve Lowe, the warm welcome of the Senate.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also have another group of individuals that have done a lot for our country, as you well aware, Mr. President, having worn the cloth, and that's the members of the Military Officers American Association. I met with this group on the 6th floor earlier. They are a highly organized and dedicated group of individuals to make sure that our 850,000 veterans continue to get the things that they need to come back from the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. Mr. President, I'd ask that you give a warm welcome to the MOA group.
Thank you, Senator. Would members of the Military Officers of America please rise? Thank you all for being with us this afternoon, and thank you all as well for your service to the country and being here advocating for not only folks in our active duty, the men and women that wear our uniform, but also veterans across the Commonwealth. So I'd ask the members of the Senate to please join me in offering members of the Military Officers of America the warm welcome of the Senate. Senator from Fairfax County, Senator Saslaw.
Mr. President, we're being visited today. I don't know whether they made it into the gallery or not by 17 students from Thomas Jefferson High School for Science and Technology, and they're here with their principal, Dr. Glazer. There are some other faculty, students, and parents. And Thomas Jefferson High School has students from most of the municipalities in Northern Virginia, not all, but most. And they are consistently ranked by national publications as the top high school in America. And I know a couple years ago, their graduating class average on the SATs was higher than the incoming freshman class average at Harvard. And this was their average student. And although they don't have any average students, the average students are here on the floor. I know that'll be in the paper. Anyway, three of the students, three students that visited my office, and they visited a variety of offices, I asked them what projects they were doing, and a young lady named Violet, she's designing a finance system for the high school using, it's called, don't ask me what it means, MySQL, Python, PHP, and HTML, and is also, she's the young lady who has been sending us emails to try to change the law to allow the Science High School and other schools in Virginia to have electric charging systems at the school. One of the gentlemen, Stephen, is designing a mobile app for George Mason University, and it actually will have statewide application. As you walk by the building, you bring up on your screen what goes on in the building, what the inside of the building looks like, and this also, as I said, will be applicable to all the colleges ultimately in Virginia. The third gentleman, Danny, he's working with a small group of other students. They're going to send a satellite into space from Wallops Island later this year. And he's designing the software and the website for that. And, you know, this is not out of the ordinary for their students at that school. 2 years ago, one of their seniors, who only got 2390 on her, out of 2400 on her SATs, she developed an application for an iPhone that with a 96% accuracy, and she was 16 at the time, could determine whether or not from speech patterns that an adult had Parkinson's disease. You wonder why she's even bothering with undergraduate school. She wants to go to med school. She's ultimately going to go to med school, but it's a great school. The labs there are just something that everyone in this room should see. When John Castine was president of UVA, he told me the labs at that school were as well, if not better equipped than some of the ones at University of Virginia. And they've done a lot of construction on the school to be complete this year. And out front of the school is a dome that you see at, just like you see at Charlottesville and Monticello. So anyways, I would hope that, I ask you to please extend a welcome from the Senate of Virginia and us average students.
Thank you, Senator. And you did an excellent job describing the projects that they're working on. I'm very impressed. So, would members from Thomas Jefferson High School for Technology and Science please rise? Wow, what a great group you all have. And just as the good senator from Fairfax County just said, the work that you all are doing is commendable, and it really makes us feel good about our future. And so take advantage of the educational opportunities that you have, especially right here in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and keep doing great work and keep driving Virginia in a positive direction. So we thank you for being here today and advocating for what you're working on in school, and best of luck to you. I'd ask the members of the Senate to please join me in offering members from Thomas Jefferson High School for Technology and Science the warm welcome of the Senate. Is there any other business for the morning hour? Seeing none, the clerk will please call the calendar.
Senate calendar for Monday, January 23rd, 2017. Regular calendar, Senate bills on third reading. Senate Bill 879, a bill relating to retired circuit court judges under recall, qualifications by committees for courts of justice.
Senator from Stafford, Senator Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, move the bill pass, and speaking to the bill.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, members of the Senate, what this bill does is it requires the substitute judges for the circuit court that are on the Supreme Court's recall list to also be qualified by the General Assembly, the Senate courts, and House Courts Committee, just as we require all other judges to be qualified. It requires that they be qualified every 3 years. I think that if this bill passes, there'll be a policy where the vast majority of them would be qualified without even having to come down here. But as it stands now, we have judges that actually are substitute, they're retired, we've increased the age, and they could be sitting fairly frequently, but there's no qualification of them as we do with all other judges. So that's what the bill does. I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall Senate Bill 879 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, nor are the senators ready to vote. Have all the senators voted? If any senators desire to change their votes, the clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, noes 2.
Ayes 38, noes 2. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 1055, a bill relating to remaining at place of riot or unlawful assembly after warning to disperse penalty.
Senator from Stafford, Senator Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, I move the bill pass, and speaking to the bill.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, what this bill does is it increases the punishment for an unlawful assembly when the officers tell you to move along from a Class 3 misdemeanor to a Class 1 misdemeanor. Currently, if you are participating in an unlawful assembly or a riot, which has already been defined and is already a crime, it is only a Class 3 misdemeanor if you refuse to move when the officers ask you to do. This increases the punishment, and hopefully this is a public safety bill for us and the protesters, quite frankly.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Mr. President, I was not present when this bill passed the Courts of Justice Committee, ironically on Martin Luther King Day. I was in Roanoke attending to some pressing personal business. But, Mr. President, this is one of the worst bills I think I've ever seen. Mr. President, demonstrating and marching and expressing the views of citizens and First Amendment rights and petitioning one's government is the hallmark of our democracy. We saw over the weekend, in fact, many people demonstrating, marching, expressing their views. This is what American democracy is all about. What this bill does is say if you remain in the place, oddly enough it says a riot or unlawful assembly, after having been lawfully warned to disperse, you can go to jail. All you have to do is just stay in one place, not move. And you can go to jail. Mr. President, I recall back in 1963, Martin Luther King Jr. was jailed in Birmingham for the same thing. He wrote a letter to his clergyman in the South. It has been known far and wide as a letter from a Birmingham jail. It is one of the most remarkable pieces of literature in American history. It ranks up there with some of the best writings in religion, in the history of religion. In fact, I would rank it up there with, along the lines with some of St. Paul's letters to the young churches in the first century. Martin Luther King Jr. had the opportunity while in jail to reflect upon why he was doing what he was doing, nonviolent resistance, protesting unjust laws in America, and trying to explain it to his fellow clergymen throughout the South. And his rationale for the Civil Rights Movement is the rationale that eventually led to the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and, of course, the Voting Rights Act in 1965. I guess you can say the unintended consequences of jailing him led to one of the most remarkable pieces of literature in American history. Mr. President, we know it was unjust for Martin Luther King Jr. to be jailed in the spring of 1963 in Birmingham. This could happen to any of us. Anybody who protests, who marches, who is told by the police, this is an unlawful assembly, you have to move, and if you don't disperse, you do nothing but sit down, you can be jailed for standing still, for sitting down, for doing nothing. Mr. President, this is not what we should do. This is not the kind of legislation we should pass. This is contrary to what we believe in as Americans, what we believe in as Virginians. I think Thomas Jefferson would roll over in his grave if he thought we were considering something like this. Mr. President, I hope we vote no on this very bad piece of legislation.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Grayson, Senator Carrico.
Thank you, Mr. President. Speak to the bill.
Senator has the floor.
Let's not kid ourselves what this bill does. It's already law. And basically, when an unlawful assembly is declared, it's when people are getting disorderly and when people are blocking interstates and when people are doing some things that actually present a public safety problem that are existing. What this bill does is give teeth to that law. And ironically, the gentleman from Roanoke that just spoke has a lot of initiatives to basically look at I-81 projects. And there's been a study that was conducted on I-81 that tells the duration of an accident that lasts longer than, or as long as 12 hours, results in 8-mile backups, delays vehicle travel by 16,335 hours, and cost the Commonwealth somewhere around $612,000. So basically that breaks down to about $50,000 an hour. So what we're saying is every time that you see these unlawful assemblies take place where they're linking arms and they're blocking vehicular travel on I-95, we're going to slap them with a little small fine because they failed to disperse a Class 3 misdemeanor. This law would give some teeth to that, and then law enforcement are not going to declare it an unlawful assembly unless it becomes unpeaceful. As long as the marches are done peacefully and orderly and done as what they applied for the permits to do, there's no problems. But the problem exists whenever these get to be unpeaceful, and we're seeing that happen all across this nation, even in Virginia. So we need to do some things to give teeth to this law. This basically enhances it to a Class 1 misdemeanor and hopefully will deter some of these actions taking place and helps prevent any lag in commerce in Virginia, especially when they're blocking these interstate highways for the free travel thereof. So I hope that you'll support the bill.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Arlington, Senator Favola.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask the ladies and gentlemen of the Senate to vote against this bill. This is very excessive. We're talking about individuals who could be fined up to $2,500 or put in jail for 12 months. This bill exasperates the divide that already exists among individuals who are trying to express themselves in a peaceful way and our police departments and our police forces. We should encourage peaceful demonstrations. The individuals who take the time and the energy and have the courage to go out and actually make a statement are very passionate about a social cause. In fact, demonstrations have been a key tool in promoting social change. The civil rights movement, when women were active trying to get the right to vote. These are all examples of how we were able to move the system. Moreover, the people who are passionate about an issue are also the people who are outside of the system. They're people who are asking for change. A bill like this, in my mind, is very dangerous. There's no way that I believe an individual who is standing up for his or her rights and asking the government to be more responsive should face a potential jail sentence or a fine. So, ladies and gentlemen, I ask that we not support this bill. There are already tools in the toolbox, and this is not the measure that we should take, given the situation that we face in our country and given our long history of supporting unassembled protests. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Hampton, Senator Locke.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in opposition to this measure.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, I find it ironic that Senate Bill 1055, which increases the penalty for unlawful assembly, was passed on the holiday of Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr., an individual who understood the power of nonviolent direct protests and the power of marching. And, Mr. President, while the rule of law is a core value in American society and has sustained our great society, it is created and crafted by other human beings and therefore subject to error. Considering rule of law maintains things as they are, to begin the process of change and to establish justice, it may be necessary to challenge by committing acts of civil disobedience, like African Americans did during the civil rights era and during anti-war protests, and currently with the Black Lives Matter campaign. Civil disobedience is a nonviolent way, yet effective way, of highlighting a legislative error and or perceived absurdity of an existing law, and it has worked. We should not compress the voice of Virginians that attempt to highlight injustices and therefore have brought it to the attention of lawmakers. The crime, unlawful assembly, does not match the punishment, especially if the crime serves as enlightenment to legislators and law enforcement that citizens wish to voice dissent. I would like to end with two quotes. One is actually from a movie, The Great Debaters. And there was the character of James Farmer Jr. It was actually based on a real story. And if you know James Farmer Jr., he taught for years at the University of Mary Washington. And his character, in his debate, made this statement, and he quoted St. Augustine. And he said that an unjust law is no law at all. And he ended by saying, which means that I have a right, even a duty, to resist if I find that I'm being discriminated against, particularly in the Jim Crow South, with violence or civil disobedience. And you should pray I choose the latter. And I would like to also quote John F. Kennedy. Those who make peaceful revolution impossible will make violent revolution inevitable. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. The senior senator from Loudoun, Senator Black.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let me point out this bill relating to remaining at a place of riot or unlawful assembly prescribes a maximum penalty. And I think when we talk about some of the things that have happened in the past with the civil rights movement, those would not be likely. They would be highly unlikely to be punished by the maximum penalty. However, I think it's important to remember that when we talk about this civil disobedience, it runs a wide gamut. And some of the things that are done border on absolute riot and total breakdown of law and order. And I think that's where we're going to see the maximum punishment come into play. And I think it is a good thing. I think we want an orderly state. And I think we want a state where people can demonstrate lawfully. But at the same time, when demonstrations become riot and become violent, I think we need to have the tools to deal with them. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. The senior senator from Fairfax County, Senator Saslaw.
Mr. President, members of the Senate, I think anybody who's been here more than a year pretty much knows what my views are on the topic called law and order. Quite frankly, it's probably as harsh as anybody in here. What you're hearing described, and by the way, I'm opposed to this bill, and I'll explain why. What you've heard described by the proponents of this is essentially already covered by law and penalties. You may have noticed on Inauguration Day over in Washington, D.C., in about a 4-block area, they had a riot. I don't think that's even in dispute. And many of them are being charged with a felony, and they should be. You burn vehicles, you break store windows, you should be charged with a felony, okay? And they have been. That's a far cry from what we're getting at in this bill. And, if you do what you were hearing described, that's really not a riot. You're committing, for the most part, that's a felony. This bill supposedly is dealing with a topic that's essentially a misdemeanor. And you're going to put people in jail because because they didn't move on quickly enough. And trust me, that invariably is what happens. All right. The other thing, I come from the most populated area of the state, and I, in fact, live in the most populous jurisdiction. I don't know of any of if there's generally been a problem of this type, and I find it, hard to imagine that the speech by Senator Carrico, they apparently have a big problem, down in his neck of the woods. But here in the most populated part of the state, where demonstrations are most prone to take part, we don't have any problem. I've not had anybody on the Fairfax County, Arlington, or Alexandria police tell me that we need to strengthen this law because they're having problems simply because everybody knows it's not harsh enough. We have disorderly conduct statutes. They can get you for that. I just don't see how increasing this from a class 3 to a class 1 is going to become a deterrent. Over in Washington, they've got a felony law and it's at $5,000. the damage that was done and the people arrested did a lot more than that, and that's what they're being charged with, and should be a felony. Okay? We're not charging these people with a felony. We're charging them with a misdemeanor, and for the same conduct that you currently can do, all we're doing is increasing the penalty. And considering the mistakes that from time to time get made, I can't see the need to sweep these people up into this. And that's why, in spite of, as I said, one of the harsher records here on law and order, and those of you who have been here know what my views are, I'm opposed to this bill, and I would hope that you would be the same.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Grayson County, Senator Carrico.
Speak to the bill.
Senator has the floor.
Since the gentleman from Fairfax brought it up, I'll go ahead and make a couple of circumstances that he may have not been aware of. And just recently after the election, there was a situation that occurred on I-64, I-95 area in the city of Richmond. I don't know if the news reached Fairfax in time or not, if he didn't see that, but where the interstates were blocked. I remember several situations in 1989 during the coal strikes in my neck of the woods where roads were blocked, arms were locked, and egress and regress was stopped. I can remember in 1989, the same year, of the streets of Virginia Beach being taken over during a festival called Greek Fest that we were called in to disperse crowds of unlawful assembly. So there are incidents that occur in Virginia. It may not occur in the gentleman from Fairfax's backyard, but they occur all across the state, in my district, in this district, and many others. So since the gentleman from Fairfax brought it up, I thought I would give a few examples of where it does happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Stafford, Senator Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. President. If no one else wishes to speak, I didn't want to give a whole lot of this detail in this bill because I wanted to hear what everybody had to say. And it's always interesting because I'm not even sure the body was discussing the bill I put in. That's how interesting this topic is. If you actually read the bill, it talks about an unlawful assembly, i.e., a riot. It's illegal to riot. This has absolutely nothing to do with civil disobedience or peaceful protest, and nor does it say anywhere in the bill. I am the biggest advocate for peaceful protest. We've had those issues come up in the courts committee and consistently knocked them out. This has to do with a riot. Looting, pillaging, breaking into people's places of businesses, creating mayhem. That's what a riot is. Please read the bill. It may not change your mind because you've already taken your position and you've given your floor speech. This has nothing to do with peaceful protest. Mr. President, I don't know what else to say. The only other thing I would add is that what this bill does is it gives the same penalty for reckless driving, maximum penalty that you could receive for reckless driving in the state of Virginia if you refuse to stop breaking in someone's storefront and move along. I hope it'll be the pleasure to pass the bill.
Thank you, Senator. The junior senator from Richmond City, Senator McClellan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Speaking to the bill.
Senator has the floor.
I had not intended to speak to the bill, but I do want to call the members' attention to we do define what constitutes unlawful assembly in 18.2-406. An unlawful assembly is different from a riot. Otherwise, you wouldn't need to have both words in the code. An unlawful assembly is when you have 3 or more persons assembled. They might be attempting to use force or violence, but they also might be intending to break the peace or order. Now, I'll give you some examples that weren't riots. Here in the city of Richmond, one of our former colleagues on the other side of the hall, Mamie Bacote, participated with some other Virginia Union students at a sit-in at the Tallheimers, which is now the Hilton Hotel. They were unlawfully assembled at the lunch counter because it was against the law for them to sit there without the owner's permission. And the owner wouldn't let them sit there because they were black. They peacefully sat there as white students and white patrons of that store threw ketchup on them and called them all kinds of names. And that, once the store owner or the police told them to disperse if they remained, was unlawful assembly. And this bill would subject them to jail, a $2,500 fine, or both. There are many examples. When we had a protest here in the city of Richmond, over 1,000 people, if the police come and say disperse and you don't hear them, which is very possible, and you remain, you're guilty of unlawful assembly and could be jailed or given a fine of $2,500 or both. This bill goes farther than increasing the penalties for a riot. It does subject peaceful protesters to a penalty that, quite frankly, in many circumstances could be too harsh. And I'm sure a lot of people in the 60s never thought that some of the penalties that were handed down for African Americans who violated the law were never going to happen because they were unconscionable. I got many family members and friends and constituents who can tell you about they got the maximum penalty for exercising their right to civil disobedience. So let's be clear, this bill is about more than increasing the penalties for a riot. And I hope that you vote no.
Thank you, Senator. The senior senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
Just quickly, Mr. President, the senator from Stafford mentioned that we haven't been talking about his bill. It was interesting. He had mentioned amongst the many things this would cover is breaking into buildings. I don't know how things are in Stafford. You break into something in Fairfax County, you get charged with a felony. Not a misdemeanor, it's a felony. And if he wants to deal with felonies, then the bill should be fashioned differently. This bill is accurately described by the senator from Richmond. In the past has been used to come down pretty hard on the minority community in this state. And I'm not saying that's what certainly that's not what he aimed at now. But this is a bill that we simply don't need. It's a Class 3 misdemeanor. The people who are inclined to actually riot, they're not paying any attention to this. And more than likely, if it's a riot, as I always knew a riot, they're going to be charged with a felony anyway. So I just don't see the need to jack this misdemeanor from a Class 3 to a Class 1.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall Senate Bill 1055 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, nor are the senators ready to vote. Have all the senators voted? If any senators desire to change their votes, the clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 14, noes 26.
Ayes 14, noes 26. The bill does not pass.
Senate Bill 898, a bill to direct compliance with regulations of certain combined sewer overflow outfalls Potomac River watershed.
Senator from Stafford, Senator Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think this is my last one. Mr. President, this is the compromise bill that the senator from Alexandria and myself and one of the senators from Fairfax worked on to try to get a time certain where Alexandria would stop dumping all this raw sewage into the Potomac. The substitute is actually the bill. They now have until 2025 in order to clean this up, and we've taken away the provision that could potentially withhold state funds from them if they refuse to do it. Ask that you support the bill.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall Senate Bill 898 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, nor are the senators ready to vote. Have all the senators voted? If any senators desire to change their vote, the clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 0, Rule 36-1.
Ayes 39, no 0, Rule 36-1. The bill passes.
Uncontested calendar, Senate bills on second reading.
Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I respectfully move that all the Senate bills on the second reading on the uncontested calendar, which would include all Senate bills on pages 2 through 16, including Senate Bill 786 through Senate Bill 1360, be engrossed in advance to the third reading in the block after the adoption of any amendments. Any senator who desires to remove a bill from the block should please do so after the clerk has read the number of that bill.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the Senate bills on second reading on the uncontested calendar on pages 2 through 16, Senate Bill 786 through Senate Bill 1366, be engrossed in advance to the third reading in the block after the adoption of the amendments thereto, that any senator desiring to remove a bill from the block do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to.
Senate Bill 786, reported from the Committee on Local Government. Senate Bill 804, reported from the Committee on Finance. Senate Bill 843, reported from the Committee on Finance. Senate Bill 864, reported from the Committee on Privileges and Elections, and there are two floor amendments.
The senator from Stafford, Senator Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, first I would ask that Amendment number 2 be withdrawn. Yes, that's correct. I put in 2 just in case.
So you would like number 2 withdrawn?
Please, Mr. President.
Without objection, the floor amendment number 2 will be withdrawn.
And then I would ask that we waive reading of floor amendment number 1.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the reading of the floor amendment be waived? All in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The reading of the floor amendment is waived. The senator from Stafford.
And, Mr. President, I'd ask that we adopt floor amendment number 1. And speaking to that motion,
Senator has the floor.
Very quickly, what this bill does is most of our jurisdictions, I suspect, unlike Fairfax, you have a lot of different counties in the jurisdictions. In order for the circuit court judge to appoint an electoral board member, you have to have every judge in the circuit sign off on it. And in my case, in the 15th Judicial Circuit, that's 9 counties, I think. So it can take them over a month just to sign the paperwork to get an electoral board member appointed. What the bill did was it changed it to the chief judge or his designee. Nobody opposed this bill. In fact, everybody supported it because it just makes sense to streamline it. What we anticipated was that the chief judge would appoint as his designee the judge who sits in that county, and sometimes there's more than one judge who sits in that county because he knows the folks in the county, and that's what the amendment does. It clarifies that and says that if you appoint a designee, it's the judge who sits in that county.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the floor amendment be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The floor amendment is agreed to.
Senate Bill 912, reported from the Committee on Finance. Senate Bill 919, reported from the Committee on Local Government. Senate Bill 926, reported from the Committee on Local Government. Senate Bill 936, reported for the Committee on Local Government with amendments.
Senator from Arlington, Senator Favola.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to ask that the amendments be agreed to.
Question is, shall the committee amendments be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee amendments are agreed to.
Senate Bill 960, reported from the Committee on Privileges and Elections. Senate Bill 961, reported from the Committee on Privileges and Elections. Senate Bill 964, reported from the Committee on Local Government with a substitute.
Senator from Augusta, Senator Hanger.
Mr. President, I move the committee substitute be agreed to.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the committee substitute be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The substitute is agreed to.
Senate Bill 977, reported from the Committee on Finance. Senate Bill 1001, reported from the Committee on Local Government. Senate Bill 1025, reported from the Committee on Finance. Senate Bill 1083, reported from the Committee on Local Government. Senate Bill 1104, reported from the Committee on Privileges and Elections with amendments.
Senator from Eastern Fairfax County, Senator Sturville.
Mr. President, I move the committee amendment.
Question is, shall the committee amendment be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee amendment is agreed to.
Senate Bill 1135, reported from the Committee on Local Government. Senate Bill 1225, reported from the Committee on Local Government. Senate Bill 1254, reported from the Committee on Privileges and Elections with amendments.
The senator from Rockingham, Senator Obenshain.
Mr. President, I move that the committee amendment be agreed to.
The question is, shall the committee amendment be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee amendments are agreed to.
Senate Bill 1304, reported from the Committee on Privileges and Elections. Senate Bill 855, reported from the Committee on Transportation. Senate Bill 894, reported from the Committee on Education and Health with a substitute.
The senator from Arlington, Senator Favola.
Mr. President, I move that the substitute be agreed to.
The question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The substitute is agreed to.
Senate Bill 1006, reported from the Committee on Education and Health with a substitute.
The senator from Augusta, Senator Hanger.
Mr. President, I ask that that bill go by for the day.
Without objection, Senate Bill 1006 will go by for the day.
Senate Bill 1041, reported from the Committee on Transportation. Senate Bill 1046, reported from the Committee on Education and Health. Senate Bill 1069, reported from the Committee on Transportation. Senate Bill 1085, reported for the Committee on Transportation. Senate Bill 1101, reported from the Committee on Transportation with amendment.
The senator from Bedford, Senator Newman.
Mr. President, I move that the committee amendment be agreed to.
The question is, shall the committee amendment be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee amendment is agreed to.
Senate Bill 1169, reported for the Committee on Transportation. Senate Bill 1178, reported from the Committee on Education and Health with amendment.
Senator from Russell County, Senator Chafin.
Mr. President, I move the committee amendment.
The question is, shall the committee amendment be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee amendment is agreed to.
Senate Bill 1180, reported from the Committee on Education and Health with an amendment, and there is a floor amendment.
The senator from Russell, Senator Chafin.
Yes, Mr. President, I have a colleague here who has the floor amendment, would like to present the floor amendment, I believe.
Senator, we need to reject your committee amendment first.
I move that, all right, I can do that. I move with the recommendation that the amendment be rejected, the floor amendment, and I will move in a moment that the floor amendment be approved.
All right, thank you, Senator. With the recommendation that it be rejected, the question is, shall the committee amendment be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The noes have it. The committee amendment is rejected. The senator from Henrico, Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the reading of the floor amendment be waived.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the reading of the floor amendment be waived? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The reading of the floor amendment is waived. The senator from Henrico.
Yes, Mr. President. I move that the floor amendment be agreed to. And basically, all that this does is to add to the study that we have requested the prescription monitoring program to present to the Joint Commission on Healthcare annually to include benzodiazepines in addition to opiates.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the substitute amendment be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendment is agreed to.
Senate Bill 1211, reported from the Committee on Transportation. Senate Bill 1221, reported from the Committee on Education and Health with amendments.
The senator from Southern Fairfax County, Senator Barker.
Mr. President, I move that the amendments be adopted.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the committee amendments be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee amendments are agreed to.
Senate Bill 1230, reported from the Committee on Education and Health with amendment.
Senator from Henrico, Senator Donovan.
Mr. President, I move that the amendments be agreed to.
The question is, shall the committee amendment be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee amendments are agreed to.
Senate Bill 1242, reported from the Committee on Education and Health with amendments.
The senator from Henrico, Senator Donovan. The question is, shall the committee amendments be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee amendments are agreed to.
Senate Bill 1250, reported from the Committee on Transportation. Senate Bill 1279, reported from the Committee on Transportation. Senate Bill 1323, reported from the Committee on Education and Health. Senate Bill 1366, reported from the Committee on Transportation with amendments.
The senator from Bedford, Senator Newman.
Mr. President, I move that the committee amendment be agreed to.
The question is, shall the committee amendment be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee amendment is agreed to. The question is, shall the Senate bills be engrossed and advanced through the third reading? That is, all bills except 1006 on page 10. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bills are engrossed and advanced through the third reading.
Regular calendar, Senate bills on second reading. Senate Bill 1126, a bill relating to consumer finance companies' internet loans, reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor, and there is a floor amendment.
Senator from Eastern Fairfax County, Senator Surville.
Mr. President, I move with waive reading of the floor amendment.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the reading of the floor amendment be waived? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The reading of the floor amendment is waived. The senator from Eastern Fairfax County.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move adoption of the floor amendment. Speaking to that amendment.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, this floor amendment, if you didn't like the bill, you should really like it now because this adds a reenactment clause to it, so which means we have to pass it again next year. And secondly, there's been some questions that were raised by not the companies that this intended to regulate, but the companies who are already regulated. And the Bureau of Financial Institutions has indicated they'd like to take a deep dive into this, make some recommendations to us for next year. And so this directs the BFI to take a look at this whole internet lending industry and make some recommendations. And having said that, I would hope the body would support the floor amendment.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the floor amendment be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The floor amendment is agreed to. The senator from Eastern Fairfax County, Senator Surville.
Mr. President, I'd move the bill be engrossed and passed on to third reading.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 901, a bill relating to Park Authority liability immunity, reported from the Committee on Local Government.
The senator from Western Fairfax County, Senator Morrison.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the bill be engrossed and passed on to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 1073, a bill relating to general and operational powers of the town elections, appointed officers, reported from the Committee on Local Government with amendment.
The senator from Rockingham, Senator Obenshain.
Mr. President, I move that the committee amendments be agreed to.
The question is, shall the committee amendment be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee amendment is agreed to. The senator from Rockingham.
Mr. President, I'd ask that this be engrossed and advanced to third reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 1084, a bill which provided a charter for the town of Herndon relating to elections, reported for the Committee on Local Government.
The junior senator from Loudoun, Senator Wexler.
Mr. President, I move that the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 1134, a bill which provided a charter for the City of Williamsburg relating to the Redevelopment and Housing Authority, reported from the Committee on Local Government.
The senator from Williamsburg, Senator Mason.
Mr. President, I move the bill be engrossed and passed to its third reading.
Question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 1236, a bill relating to candidate petitions, number of signatures required for statewide candidates, reported from the Committee on Privileges and Elections.
The senator from Alexandria, Senator Evans.
Mr. President, I move the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 1302, a bill relating to write-in votes, duties of local electoral boards, reported from the Committee on Privileges and Elections with a substitute.
The senator from Fauquier County, Senator Vogel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Let's pass the substitute first, Senator.
Oh, sorry, Mr. President. I move that the substitute be agreed to.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The substitute is agreed to. The senator from Fauquier.
Now, Mr. President, I move that it be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 1303, a bill relating to voter registration, deadline for registration by electronic means, reported from the Committee on Privileges and Elections.
The senator from Fauquier, Senator Vogel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 865, a bill relating to prohibition against furnishing dirk switchblade knife or bowie knife to minor exemptions, reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice.
Senator from Stafford, Senator Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Question is, should the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 1024, a bill relating to the reporting of disabilities of drivers, reported from the Committee on Education and Health with a substitute.
Senator from Henrico, Senator Donovan.
Mr. President, I move that the substitute be agreed to.
The question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The substitute is agreed to. The senator from Henrico.
Mr. President, I move that the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 1027, a bill relating to cannabidiol oil and THCA oil, permitting of pharmaceutical cow processors to manufacture and provide, reported from the Committee on Education and Health.
The senator from Western Fairfax County, Senator Morris.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 1148, a bill relating to authority of the Commissioner of Highways to lease or convey airspace, reported from the Committee on Transportation.
The senator from Arlington, Senator Favola.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
The question is, should the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 1299, a bill relating to carrying concealed handguns, protective orders, reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice.
The senator from Fauquier County, Senator Vogel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 1362, a bill relating to carrying concealed weapons exemption for non-duty status active military personnel, reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice with a substitute.
The senior senator from Loudon, Senator Black.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the committee substitute be approved.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The substitute is agreed to. The senior senator from Loudon.
I now move that the bill be engrossed and advanced to third reading.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 1403, a bill to require the Board of Pharmacy to deschedule or reschedule cannabidiols upon publication of an interim final rule, reported from the Committee on Education and Health with a substitute.
The senator from Henrico, Senator Donovan.
Mr. President, I move the committee substitute be agreed to.
The question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee substitute is agreed to. The senator from Henrico.
Mr. President, I move that the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 1415, a bill relating to Virginia Port Authority removal of members on Board of Commissioners, reported from the Committee on Transportation with a substitute.
The senator from Northern Chesapeake, Senator Spruill.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the substitute.
Question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The substitute is agreed to. The senator from Northern Chesapeake.
Move that the bill be engrossed and passed to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Uncontested calendar, Senate bills on first reading.
Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that all the Senate bills on the first reading on both the uncontested and regular calendar, which would include all Senate bills on pages 22 through 25, including Senate Bill 1108 through Senate Bill 1204, that the rules of the Senate be suspended and that the first constitutional reading of the titles be dispensed with.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the rules be suspended and the first reading of the titles of Senate bills on the uncontested and regular calendars, pages 22 through 25, Senate Bill 1108 through Senate Bill 1204, be dispensed with? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, noes 0. The reading of the titles is dispensed with. The senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Mr. President, I now move that all the bills that find themselves on the second reading be passed by for the day.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the Senate bills on the uncontested and regular calendars now on second reading be passed by for the day? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bills will go by for the day.
Uncontested calendar, Senate Joint Resolution on second reading. Senate Joint Resolution 241, confirming the appointment by the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Virginia of the Chairman of the Virginia Criminal Sentencing Commission, reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice.
The senator from Rockingham, Senator Obenchain.
Mr. President, I move that the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the resolution be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The resolution is engrossed and advanced to its third reading. The senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Mr. President, inquire the clerk, does that complete today's calendar?
Yes, sir.
Is there any other business to come before the Senate? The senior senator from Bath County, Senator Deeb.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to ask that we return to the morning hour for a brief introduction.
Thank you, Senator. You have the floor.
I've been informed that we have a group from Tandem Friends School in Charlottesville. It's a private school in Charlottesville that's been serving the community for a good number of years. And I'd ask that you give that group the warm greetings of the Senate.
Thank you, Senator. Would members from Tandem Friends in Charlottesville please rise if you're with us in the gallery? Senator, they may have moved on to another viewing area, but we certainly welcome them to the Capitol this afternoon and hope they have an enjoyable afternoon. I'd ask the members of the Senate to please join me in offering members from the Tandem Friends School in Charlottesville, Virginia, the warm welcome of the Senate. The senator from Eastern Fairfax County, Senator Sorreville.
Thank you, Mr. President. Point of personal privilege.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, a lot of us over here on this side of the aisle aren't very happy about what happened this past November. And we could probably spend an entire floor session doing points of personal privilege about everything creeping out of Washington over the next few days of session. But I just read something in the paper, actually right as I came on this floor, which got my attention, which I think we should all care deeply about. I read in the paper that President Trump a few hours ago signed an executive order freezing all federal government employment and also freezing all federal pay raises. And that's important, not just for the area I represent, for everybody here. The percentage of all federal government or all government workers in the U.S., federal, state, and local, as part of the national workforce, is as low as it's been since 1960. The government bureaucracy, whether it's federal, state, or local, is not bloated. According to the Federal Reserve, the percentage of federal workers as a percentage of all employees in America today is under 2%, which is lower than it was in 1940. Our federal government workforce is not big. But I'll tell you where it's big. It's in this state. In the state of Virginia, there's only one other state in the United States of America that has more federal government employees in the state of Virginia, and that's Maryland. In Virginia, it's 4.6% of our state. And we saw what this meant just a couple years ago when the federal government decided to stop hiring and decided to stop spending, when the sequester came down, when the government shut down, it put our state into another recession after recession. Our revenues went flat, and it's going to happen again. So get ready. I'm kind of wondering if the revenue shortfalls we're assuming on need to be looked at again right now, because this is not going to be good for us. The second reason this is bad, from my perspective, this is an attack on 172,000 Virginians that all of us represent. Virginia has 172,500 non-military federal workers. These workers are not also all in Virginia. When you look at the chart, I pulled a chart off Governing Magazine, which lays out which agencies these are with. The number one agency for these 172,000 workers are civilians that work for the Department of the Navy. 43,851 people. And I can tell you, a lot of those Navy workers aren't all in Northern Virginia. They're in another part of the state. And it's not going to be good. These workers, they're not bad people. They're not evil. They're not, corrupt government bureaucrats or all the things that get thrown at them all the time. These are the people that keep us safe. They protect our country. They keep our air, our water. They keep our environment clean. They keep our children educated. These are attacks on agencies like the FBI, the CIA, ICE. These are not agencies. These are agencies that do things to keep our country safe. And this move by our president, from my perspective, it's nothing more than grandstanding. And it's grandstanding. If you all remember, just about a month ago, one of the things the president said was, I intend to help the states that help me. And the states that voted against me are going to find out what it means to vote against me. And now, you know what? Virginians are going to pay the price. And to me, it's disgusting. So from my perspective, when this revenue goes down, it's not going to be an attack on our federal workers. It's going to be bad for our teachers, our police, our children, our college students, and our citizens. And I would hope that we all stand in opposition to this, because it affects all of us, no matter what party we're in, what part of the state we're in. It's going to hurt everybody in this state, and we all ought to be opposed to it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. The Senator from Arlington, Senator Favola.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise on a point of personal privilege.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise today to recognize the 44th anniversary of Roe versus Wade. I'm sure many of you are familiar with that decision, but I think it's worth noting the composition of the court, the U.S. Supreme Court, at the time the decision was made. Brennan and Marshall were considered liberal judges. Powell, Douglas, and Stewart were swing votes. Blackmun and Berger, the Chief Justice, were perceived and in reality served as conservative judges. However, all of them upheld Roe versus Wade and agreed that a woman had a constitutional right to get an abortion. Although White and Rehnquist dissented, typically as a swing vote, they did not in this case. Justice Harry Blackmun, in his majority opinion, defended a woman's right to make her own personal medical choices, stating, quote, this right of privacy, whether it be founded in the 14th Amendment's concept of personal liberty and restrictions upon state action, as we feel it is, or as the district court determined in the 9th Amendment's reservation of rights to the people, in fact, it is broad enough to encompass a woman's decision on whether or not to terminate her pregnancy. I just want to remind this body that prior to the 1973 decision, 1.2 million women each year were forced to resort to illegal abortions despite the risk of unsanitary conditions, incompetent treatment, infection, hemorrhaging, disconfiguration, and also death. Virginians believe, and I would like to believe we as senators and representatives of Virginians believe, that a woman's choice to terminate a pregnancy, to choose adoption, or to make any other choice is really her choice. And it is a decision that a woman should make with her family and with her doctor, but without the help of politicians. I will just say that Thomas Jefferson, I believe, would fight today for a woman's right to privacy. We, as a commonwealth, should respect that individual right. We should leave politicians out of the doctor's offices, and please leave politics out of health care decisions. I do hope that all of us will take a moment to reflect on the decision of Roe versus Wade and honor its conclusion. And I thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Hanover, Senator McDougal.
Thank you, Mr. President. Rise for the purpose of announcement.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, as members are aware, on Friday we passed the bill introduction deadline. But as members are also aware, we have a lot of new members and technology does not always work perfectly. So in an effort to streamline the process and to prevent a myriad of members standing up to ask for unanimous consent to introduce legislation, we're going to try to work all that through tomorrow. So if you're on this side of the chamber, if you could get to us before session tomorrow with bills that you would like to be introduced that you missed the deadline for. And if you're on that side of the chamber, if you could get with your leadership, because tomorrow will be it. So it's not an amnesty day, but it's pretty close to that as we try to work through this process. But then it'll be done and we'll be able to get through all the legislation, hopefully, in this short session. So again, if you didn't get something in, it was a technical problem, or for the newer members who did not have as much time to get things drafted, please get to your leadership. We're going to come together tomorrow, and there'll only be one point in time, Mr. President, where you'll have to listen to motions for unanimous consent.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
I thank you, Mr. President. Originally, when I had pushed my button, it was for purposes of making an announcement, but the senator from Hanover just took care of that. So for that, I'm appreciative. But I do rise on a point of personal privilege.
Senator has the floor.
As I listened to the oratory of the senator from Eastern Fairfax County, I was reminded in the Senate of Virginia why rarely does a freshman go on the Senate Finance Committee. And I would like to remind the body that fiscal constraint and responsibility is not a synonym for fiscal attack. If you think about fiscal constraint, that in the federal level there is no constitutional amendment for a balanced budget, unlike the Commonwealth of Virginia. And you might argue the reasons for this, but over the last 8 years, the national debt in the United States has increased 89%. Now, you might want to debate why that has come about, but that is not an example of fiscal constraint. I would suggest to your honor, I would suggest to you, Mr. President, that you may categorize this as a bad thing, but what I really take umbrage at is I hope that everyone in this body will continue to follow the budgetary process that the Senate Finance Committee is undertaking. We are working very diligently, trying to figure out a way to give our state employees salary increases within our fiscal constraints. We are looking to see how we can give teachers an increase within our fiscal constraints. We are looking very hard to see how we can help our Virginia State Police in a fiscally responsible manner. That is not an attack, Mr. President, and I would say that the Senate Finance Committee will continue to move in that direction, and I invite every member of this body to monitor and contribute in a positive way to that process.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Portsmouth, Senator Lucas.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise on a point of personal privilege.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, for years on the floor of the Senate, there was one member of Delta Sigma Theta sorority, one member of Zeta, and one AKA, seated to my right. Today, when I introduced the Deltas in the gallery, I inadvertently omitted 2 Deltas on the floor of the Senate, and it's only because for 20 years, there was only 1, and now there are 3. And so, Mr. President, going forward, be it known by all that there are 2 other Deltas on the floor of the Senate, Senator Jennifer McClellan and Senator Rosalind Dance. And I apologize for not recognizing you along with your sisters.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Prince William County, Senator McPike.
Mr. President, I rise for the purpose of announcement.
Senator has the floor.
I'd ask the members of the Senate to join me tomorrow morning for our breakfast. This breakfast is being hosted by some distinguished individuals with the Muslim Association of Virginia. They'll be here tomorrow morning at 4 West from 9:30 a.m. to 11 a.m. And the Muslim Association is an active group of citizens that have been engaging in community service, including holding food banks, helping the homeless, as well as other civic activities to help their fellow Americans. And I'd appreciate everyone stopping by for a few minutes to say hello. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. The clerk will please report any announcements on the desk.
Today, Monday, January 23rd, the Committee on Commerce and Labor will meet 15 minutes after adjournment in Senate Room B. The Committee on General Laws and Technology will meet 45 minutes after adjournment in Senate Room A. The Finance Subcommittee on Health and Human Resources will meet at 4 p.m., 10th floor conference room, Senators Hanger, Howe, Newman, Barker, Donovan, and Dance. The Northern Virginia delegation will meet at 5 p.m. in the 6th floor speakers conference room. Tomorrow, Tuesday, January 24th, the Finance Subcommittee on Economic Development and Natural Resources will meet at 7:30 a.m., 10th floor conference room, Senators Ruff, Saslaw, Wagner, Obenshain, and Dance. The Education and Health Subcommittee on Health Professions will meet at 8:30 a.m., 4th floor East Conference Room, Senators Donovan, Suderline, Carrico, Barker, Lucas, and Peake. The Committee on Finance will meet at 9 a.m. in Senate Room B. The Republican Caucus will meet at 11:30 a.m., Senate Room 2. The Democratic Caucus will meet at 11:30 a.m. in Senate Room 1. Well, we have a change on general laws. General laws will meet at 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock for general laws. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The senator from Bedford, Senator Newman.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate do now adjourn until 12 noon tomorrow.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the Senate stand adjourned until 12 o'clock noon tomorrow? All in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The Senate will stand adjourned until 12 o'clock noon tomorrow.